Hello out there. I'd like to speak to to our school.
Hello out there. Okay, 3, 2.
Hello. I'd like to speak to our St. Philip the Apostle school children, our religious education children, and the teenagers and young people in our parish. We've been very busy trying to share the liturgies with you and keep our parish ministry and pastoral care going in a virtual way through broadcasting, so I didn't have an opportunity to speak to you yet, but I did want to take this time to just address this World Health issue and just offer you some thoughts and ideas about it to help us to take a spiritual view of what's happening to our world and perhaps good ways to cope and not only that, to flourish even in the midst of this adversity. So I think you're all kind of familiar with Mr. Rogers. There was a famous movie with him recently starring Tom Hanks, who himself caught this virus and recovered quite successfully. When he was researching the movie to play the role of Mr. Rogers, he read this story that I'd like to share with you, that when Mr. Rogers, whose name was Freddie, was a little boy, he was very sensitive, and whenever he'd listen to the news on the radio, he would get upset if he heard like bad news, and his mother said to him, "Listen, Fred, there's always bad news, there's always good news, and that's part of life. It's not ever going to change. That's how it is. It's like waves, the tide comes in and out. But when you're hearing bad news, there's something you can do to bring good news into the situation, and that is this. When you hear a story or you see a story on TV or whatever, look for the helpers. There's always someone trying to help. Concentrate on that. Yes, hear the bad story, but then look for the helpers. There's good people always trying to do good in difficult situations. And so that helped him throughout his life, and eventually he made a TV program to help people find good news in the midst of some bad news. So certainly this health crisis is challenging for us, but we can look to the helpers. And if you've been watching, as I'm sure you are, there's nurses, there's doctors, there's policemen and firemen, there's sanitation workers, there's all the people who go to work so we can get our food, that we can have lights and water. Look to those people. Look behind the main story to see their sacrifice and their goodness. They are God's love being manifest to help us in this difficult time. So there's that. Look for the helpers. Also, I'm not so sure you're familiar with this, but in the last century, about 100 years ago, maybe a little less, there was a disease called polio. And it was very much like what we're experiencing now with this coronavirus. People would suddenly get it. And what happened to them at that time is they became paralyzed. They lost some mobility in varying ways, and people were concerned about it. And so many people, like today, were working for a cure, to find some type of a vaccine that could help people to prevent them getting sick. And so in the 1950s, Jonas Salk developed a vaccine for polio, and everybody took the shot, and now nobody has to get polio anymore. At that time, in the summers, they closed all the pools because they thought it came through the water. So every time period has its challenges and difficulties. What we do with what we're given makes the difference. So we look for the helpers. We work to the best of our ability to do what we can do. So what can you do? Well, what you can do is to pray as you stay. This is a good time for prayer. I know you have to continue to do your schoolwork, and that's all very important, but prayer, you can be prayer helpers throughout this. First of all, pray for your parents because they're under tremendous pressure with this situation, and plus you're all at home together, which is challenging. So pray, cooperate, pray for them. They're anxious, and they're praying as well, but we need to help each other in that. Prayer is a very, very powerful way to help someone else. Also, the other thing you can do is to pray yourself. Pray for the caregivers, pray for nurses, pray for doctors, pray for all the people who can't stay at home but go out of their home to help other people. Pray for them. Ask God to surround them with light and a halo of protection. Also, pray yourself. Pray for peace within your heart so that you can be cheerful and giving and patient with each other. We can't do it on our own. We need God's help, especially when our life circumstances are so messed up. And the best way to, one of the best prayers that you could pray is the Serenity Prayer, which you're going to see in a minute. It's a very simple one, and it says this. It says, God, grant us the serenity, and for you little ones, that means a sense of peace, to accept what we can't change. We can't fight what we can't change. So not that we like what's happening, but that we can accept it and say, okay, this is what's happening. I see it. God, please help me with this that I cannot change. So God, grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage, which means the heart, to change what we can. And I listed to you the different things you can do. Look for the helpers. Pray for the helpers. Be part of the solution and not the problem. We are all in this together. So God grant us serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage, the heart, the will, the desire to change the things we can, to be a person who brings good news and is love in action, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's asking God to help us to see what we can't do and what we can do, and to put our energy in a good way. So that's another form of prayer. So pray as you stay. Father Matt, myself, Father Kevin, all the people in the parish, we're praying for you as our young people. We look to you to help us with the gift that youth has, which is hope and enthusiasm and goodness. So we thank you for all you're doing during this health crisis, and pray as you stay. Now, please join us for Holy Week. Special services on tomorrow on Holy Thursday at noon. You can watch us on YouTube or Facebook. You'll be getting also tomorrow morning or later today something called Holy Week, What to Do at Home. And these are things you can do to prepare for those special liturgies we're giving you. It's not homework, but it's like homework, so something you could do at home. And then Good Fridays at noon. And there's an Easter Vigil with candle things on Saturday night, and also Easter Sunday morning, the Mass is at 10. So when you get this little thing, I know that some of you made crosses for Good Friday. I'm going to ask you to do something special for Holy Thursday and Saturday night, but I'm not telling you now, because when you get that email, you can check that out, and I'll explain it better and more clearly. So I know this message seems a little long and a little rushed. I just wanted to get it out to you before school closed, and to say that we're praying for you, and so you please pray for us and pray as you stay. We'll be speaking again. Thank you.